Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into the world of chaos magic.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
It is, and we have a really unique opportunity here.
Oh, how so?
Well, we're going to be guided by the insights of Peter J. Carroll himself.
Wow, really? Directly?
Well, not directly, but this deep dive is based on a series of emails, questions and answers between us and Peter J. Carroll.
Oh, so it's like we're having a conversation with him through time and cyberspace.
Exactly, and we're going to unpack his responses, add some extra context, give you a richer understanding of chaos magic.
And its evolution.
Yes, from its very beginnings in the 1970s.
Oh, wow. So we're going all the way back.
All the way back to the formation of the IoT.
The Illuminates of Thanateros.
Yes, and the impact of the internet on the movement.
I mean, it's really hard to overstate how much the internet changed. Well, everything.
Right, and this is one of those things where it's really interesting to see how the internet affected this often misunderstood magical system.
And how it fits into the world of esoteric practices as a whole.
And let me tell you, Carroll throws down a gauntlet right from the start.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, he says, make your own servers, don't play around with demons from grimoires you don't know where they've been.
Okay. I mean, that's good advice.
Right, but then he follows it up with, should we view AI the same way?
Whoa, that's a good question.
Right, like don't just blindly trust any old AI or magical entity.
No, its origins, its purpose, its potential impact.
Exactly. Okay, so let's rewind the clock and explore the roots of chaos magic.
Okay, back to the beginning.
Back to the 1970s.
The 70s, so like disco and bell-bottoms and chaos magic.
Haha. It all starts with these small, almost underground groups experimenting with different approaches to magic.
So imagine a time before the internet, where knowledge was passed hand to hand, whispered in dimly lit rooms.
Yeah, very clandestine.
It was a time of intense experimentation and debate, fueled by a DIY, almost punk rock spirit.
Ooh, I like that punk rock magic.
It definitely had that rebellious energy, tearing apart existing esoteric ideas, putting them back together in new ways.
Yeah, and really focusing on their own experiences and values.
And asking questions like, what is chaos?
And how do we actually make magic work?
What role do figures like Aleister Crowley and Austin Spare play in all this?
So then things start to get more official.
Ah, here comes the bureaucracy.
Yeah. With the publication of Carroll's groundbreaking books.
Which ones?
Well, Liber Null and Psychonon is the big one.
Okay, yeah, that's a classic.
And the formation of the Illuminates of Thanateros, or the IoT.
Okay, so this marks the second phase of the movement.
Right. It's that classic case of a movement trying to find a balance.
Yeah, between its individualistic spirit
and the need for some kind of structure.
Trying to organize chaos.
Sounds a little paradoxical, doesn't it?
A little bit. And it definitely created some tension.
Oh, I bet.
But it also led to a burst of creativity.
Like what?
Well, the development of the Iranian barbaric language, for one.
Wow, a whole new language.
Yeah, a magical language unique to the IoT.
Wow.
And they codified the 8 forms of magic.
Okay, I'm going to need to hear more about that.
We'll definitely dig into those.
So this is all pre-internet, right?
This is all pre-internet, yeah.
So then, bam, the internet explodes onto the scene.
The world has changed forever.
And this ushers in the third phase, the digital age.
And geographical barriers just vanish.
Poof.
And chaos magic ideas spread like wildfire.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's complicated.
It always is, isn't it?
On one hand, the internet connected people all over the world.
Fostering new ideas, new collaborations.
But it also created a breathing ground for a lot of unproductive arguments.
Ah, yes, the internet is great for that.
Echo chambers.
Information overload.
Yeah, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose of magical knowledge.
Exactly. So how do you even navigate that?
Well, that's something Carroll himself has struggled with.
Really?
But he's developed an interesting strategy to deal with it.
Okay, I'm listening.
He treats his emails and online posts like old-fashioned letters.
Oh, that's interesting.
He takes his time to craft thoughtful responses, avoids knee-jerk reactions.
Not adding to the noise.
Right. It's a practice we could all learn from.
Absolutely, regardless of our magical inclinations.
Now, remember that question about AI and servitors?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
That leads us right into one of the most fundamental principles of chaos magic.
Gnosis?
Gnosis. Okay, so secret societies and hidden knowledge.
Well, not quite. Chaos magic's approach to Gnosis is much more pragmatic.
Oh. How so?
It's not about the specific content of your altered states of consciousness.
But rather how you use those states as tools. Tools for personal transformation and magical work.
Exactly. It's like saying Gnosis is a powerful tool.
You can use it to build a house or start a fire. The choice is yours.
It's that focus on practicality and personal experience that really sets chaos magic apart.
So how does that work with dogma?
Well, unlike many other magical or religious systems,
chaos magic actively encourages questioning and experimentation.
if a technique works for you, great.
And if not, toss it aside and try something else. There's no one right way to do things.
So less thou shalt and more, hey, try this out and see what happens.
Exactly, and that's where the potential clash with systems that rely heavily on dogma comes in, dilemma, or various monotheistic religions.
Right, because chaos magic is like dogma. Who needs dogma? Let's see what we can create without it.
Ha, pretty much. Now, speaking of creation, Carroll's perspective on technology, especially AI, is fascinating.
Oh,
He takes Arthur C. Clarke's third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic,
oh yeah, I've heard that one.
and turns it on its head.
What do you mean?
He suggests that maybe magic is just a form of advanced technology that we haven't fully grasped yet.
Okay, whoa, mind blown.
But then he raises this crucial question. If we can think of magic as a technology, what happens when we try to automate it?
Like with those AI-powered tarot reading apps or sigil generators?
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
that even real magic?
Carroll is deeply skeptical.
Makes sense.
He believes that true magical power comes from the magician's concentration and intention.
You can't just press a button and expect results.
You have to be actively engaged.
And he also points out that AI, for all its impressive abilities, it still relies on data scraped from the internet.
It's like summoning a demon from a grimoire.
Oh, wow.
You don't know where it's been, what it's learned, whose agenda it might be serving.
That's a little chilling.
It is, and it brings us back to Carroll's initial warning.
Be mindful of the forces you're working with.
Understand their origins, their limitations, their potential impact.
Okay, so we've got this history of chaos magic, this emphasis on gnosis and experimentation.
This fascinating link between magic and technology.
But what about the IoT itself?
Yeah, what was Carroll's motivation for creating this organization?
It seems a bit of a paradox, right? Organized chaos.
Yeah, what was he hoping to achieve? Carroll's vision for the IoT was to create a space for the development, discussion, and practice of chaos magic. He wanted structure, but not like a rigid hierarchy.
Okay, so a framework,
Yeah, a framework that encouraged innovation and collaboration.
but didn't stifle individual expression.
Exactly.
Sounds like he was trying to walk a tightrope.
Between order and chaos.
Yeah.
And for a time, it worked. The early years of the IoT were really a whirlwind of creative energy.
Like what kind of stuff were they doing?
Groundbreaking rituals.
Oh, wow.
They created the Iranian barbaric language.
Remind me what that is again?
It's a magical language that's unique to the IoT.
Oh, right.
And they codified the 8 forms of magic.
Oh, right. Yeah, we'll have to get into that.
And they documented all of this
Really?
in Carroll's book, Liber Chaos.
Okay, so that's like required reading then.
Pretty much, yeah, for anyone who's interested in the history and development of chaos magic.
Now, you mentioned that the internet had both positive and negative impacts.
Right.
But what about specifically for the IoT?
How did the digital age affect them?
Yeah,
It presented both opportunities and challenges.
I can imagine.
On one hand, much greater communication and collaboration between members,
Makes sense.
regardless of location.
Right.
But it also contributed to some of the internal tensions
Oh,
that eventually led to Carroll stepping down from his leadership position.
oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind of tensions are we talking
Well,
about?
remember that balance
Between.
between individual expression and organizational structure.
Right, right.
That proved to be a difficult one to maintain, especially in the freewheeling environment of the internet.
Yeah, no kidding.
There were disagreements about the direction of the IoT,
Okay.
the role of leadership, and how to best adapt to the digital age.
So did the IOP just fizzle out?
Not exactly. Carroll believes that it's still active,
Okay.
but maybe not with the same level of creative energy as in those early years.
Yeah, those early years sound pretty intense.
They were, but the impact of the IoT goes far beyond the organization itself.
In what way?
Their ideas have influenced how magic is practiced and perceived across the globe.
Like they planted a seed.
And it grew into a vast forest of magical possibilities.
I like that analogy.
Now, speaking of expansive ideas,
Ooh, lay it on me.
we need to explore Carroll's fascinating perspective on science,
Okay, I'm all ears.
particularly his hypersphere cosmology.
What's
It's an alternative to the Big Bang Theory.
hypersphere cosmology? That sounds intense.
It is.
Okay, so Carroll the polymath.
Weaves together concepts from seemingly disparate fields.
Right.
And in this case, he's challenging the prevailing scientific model of the universe.
So instead of the Big Bang and constant expansion.
He proposes a cyclical model of time.
Okay, so the universe expands and contracts.
Cycles through periods of expansion and contraction.
Whoa, my brain hurts.
I know it's a lot to wrap a head around, but the implications are pretty mind-boggling.
Like what?
Well, for one, it suggests that advanced intelligence might have had essentially unlimited time to develop,
Meaning?
meaning we might not be alone in the universe.
Okay, that's both exciting and terrifying.
Right. We could be sharing this vast cosmic dance with alien intelligences that have evolved over incomprehensibly long periods of time.
Okay, but how does this tie back to magic?
Seems like a big leap from cosmology to casting spells.
Yeah.
Well, Carroll finds the connection through the concept of three-dimensional time.
Okay, go on.
So imagine time not as a straight line, but as a
Seats
space
with.
depth and dimensions.
Whoa, okay.
This could have profound implications for understanding things like
Parapsychological phenomena.
telepathy or precognition.
Okay, I'm starting to see why they call this chaos magic.
Right.
It's embracing uncertainty, challenging assumptions
Exploring those uncharted territories.
of the mind and the universe.
And just when you think you've got a handle on things,
Oh, no.
Carroll throws another curveball.
Oh, what's that?
He draws on insights from both ecology and quantum physics
To?
to emphasize the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay, this is getting seriously mind-bending.
How so?
Ecology and quantum physics.
How do those connect to magic? Well, he starts by pointing out the undeniable truth that all life on Earth is interconnected.
Through.
A complex web of relationships.
Okay, sure.
We see this in ecosystems, food chains, the delicate balance of nature.
Right.
Then he brings in the mind-blowing world of quantum physics.
Hit me with it.
Specifically, quantum entanglement.
Quantum entanglement. Remind me what that is.
It's one of the strangest and most counterintuitive aspects of quantum mechanics.
Okay.
It's where two particles can become linked
Link how?
in such a way that they influence each other instantaneously regardless of the distance between them.
So like they're communicating across space and time.
Yeah, defying our conventional understanding of cause and effect.
So he's saying that everything is connected.
On a much deeper level than we might realize.
And that has implications for
how we understand our place
Yeah.
in the world and the impact of our actions.
So like the butterfly effect.
But on a cosmic scale.
A butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil.
A storm brews in Texas.
But we're talking about more than just weather patterns.
Yeah, we're talking about consciousness, energy, maybe even the fabric of reality itself.
And that's where chaos magic gets really exciting.
Yeah.
It's not just about spells and ritual.
It's a way of looking at the world
Full lens.
that allows us to see those hidden connections
And the possibilities.
that might otherwise remain invisible.
Speaking of challenging perceptions,
Yeah.
Carroll doesn't shy away from addressing the criticisms that chaos magic has received
From
practitioners of other traditions,
Like-
particularly Thelema and Wicca.
Oh, yeah, it's like there's this magical rivalry going on.
There's definitely some tension there.
Yeah, the clash with Thelema is particularly interesting.
Why is that?
Because many early chaos magicians, including Carroll himself, came from a Thelemic background.
Oh, interesting.
They were drawn to chaos magic's emphasis on personal gnosis and experimentation,
Which contrasted with Thelema's.
what they perceived as Thelema's more rigid dogma.
So they took the foundation and built something new.
Exactly. And the OTO, the main organization associated with Thelema, they even went so far as to be chaos magic rituals from their temples.
Whoa, really?
At one point, yeah.
Wow. So what about Wicca?
What's the source of the tension there?
Yeah.
The tension with Wicca stems from chaos magic's questioning of Wicca's claimed ancient historical roots.
Okay.
Carroll, being a bit of a historical stickler,
Uh-huh.
points out that Wicca, as we know it today, is largely a modern synthesis
It's synthesis of.
various occult ideas.
So not an unbroken lineage.
Yeah, not an unbroken lineage stretching back to the dawn of time.
And how did the Wiccan community react to that?
It was a mixed bag.
In what way?
Some Wiccans dug in their heels,
Okay.
defending the traditional narrative,
Makes sense.
but others saw this critique as an opportunity
An opportunity.
to break free from those rigid historical claims
Yeah.
and embrace a more fluid and evolving understanding of their practice.
It's like they realize that history is always being rewritten.
And magical traditions are no exception.
Exactly. And it speaks to the dynamic nature of esotericism in general.
Right.
People move between traditions, blend ideas.
Create something new.
It's a constant process.
Of exploration and transformation.
Now, before we get too lost in the digital age,
Right.
Carroll takes us back to a time before the internet,
Ah, simpler times.
to those unique occult bookshops that
Yeah.
fostered magical communities.
He seems particularly fond of The Sorcerer's Apprentice in Leeds.
The Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Yeah, it was more than just a bookshop. It was
Oh,
a hub.
A hub for.
Occultists of all stripes.
Okay.
You could find rare books, magical supply,
Right.
a sense of community.
Right.
They even had a tear room where local occultists would gather
Oh, wow.
on Saturdays to share ideas and stories.
That sounds like a magical haven.
It was,
But
but it wasn't without its challenges.
what happened?
Carroll recounts a rather disturbing incident.
Oh, no. What happened?
The Sorcerer's Apprentice was firebombed
What?
by Christian fundamentalists
Oh, wow.
who saw their practices as a threat.
That's all.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that even in a supposedly enlightened age, magical practices can still be met with fear and hostility.
It's hard to believe that happened.
It did, and what happened to the shop after that?
Yeah, what did they do?
Well, the firebombing forced them to adopt a mail-order-only business model
Oh, wow.
and maintain a much lower public profile.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a reminder of the historical stigmatization of occult practices.
And the very real dangers that practitioners sometimes face.
You know, it makes you wonder what's lost when these physical spaces disappear.
Especially in the digital age.
Right, sure, you can find anything online.
But there's something special about browsing a physical bookshop.
Discovering hidden gems.
Exactly.
It's about more than just the books themselves.
Right, it's about the community that forms around them.
The chance encounters, the whispered recommendations.
The shared passion.
For exploring the hidden dimensions of reality.
I couldn't agree more.
So we've explored the history, the philosophy, the community, the controversy.
Surrounding chaos magic.
But there's still one big question looming.
Which is?
Can science prove magic?
Ooh, that's the million-dollar question.
It is, and Carroll offers a nuanced perspective.
I bet.
On one hand, he's deeply interested in grounding magic in scientific principles.
Okay.
He even developed something called equations for magic.
Wait, equations for magic?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So he breaks down the elements that contribute to a successful magical working.
Like what?
Things like the level of nurses achieved,
Okay.
the strength of the magical link to the target, the degree to which the desire is embedded in the subconscious,
Okay.
and of course the ever-important factor of belief.
So there's like a scientific method to magic.
There's a logic to it.
A framework that goes beyond mere superstition.
Exactly, and Carroll's equations provide a way to think about how different factors interact.
And how to maximize the chances of success.
He even sees parallels between how scientists test theories and how magicians refine their techniques.
But can science definitively prove the existence of magic?
Carroll expresses some skepticism about that.
Really?
Yeah, he acknowledges the power of belief
And
the subjective nature of many magical experiences.
which can be.
Difficult to quantify or replicate in a controlled scientific setting.
It's almost like science and magic are speaking different languages and you can't quite find the translator.
Yeah, a great way to put it. He's not saying that they're incompatible.
Just that.
We need to expand our understanding
Of both science and magic.
Yeah, if we really want to bridge that gap.
Makes me think of those edge scientists, the ones exploring parapsychology and consciousness,
Pushing the boundary
of what's considered acceptable scientific inquiry.
Carroll mentions some of these researchers.
Like,
Dr. Rupert Sheldrake
okay.
and Dr. Dean Radin.
Okay. Yeah.
Their work explores things like telepathy and precognition.
Yeah.
He finds their work intriguing,
Wow.
but he acknowledges the challenges of designing experiments that satisfy both scientific rigor and the subjective nature of many magical experiences.
So trying to catch lightning in a bottle?
But the lightning doesn't always cooperate.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
And there's a certain irony to it all.
Oh. How so?
Carroll points out that even scientists who might be open to exploring these ideas,
The ideas behind magic.
they often hesitate to do so publicly.
Why?
Fear of damaging their reputations.
That's kind of sad.
It is.
What's an example?
He mentions a physicist named John Kramer,
John Kramer. Okay.
who developed a theory with potential implications for understanding non-locality and time.
Concepts that are central to magic.
Exactly.
So there's this unspoken taboo.
Within the scientific community.
And it's exploring these fringe ideas.
Even if they might hold the key to unlocking some new understandings,
It's a real shame.
Steigel's creativity limits the potential for groundbreaking discoveries.
But it also highlights the importance of people like Carroll.
Who are willing to challenge those unspoken rules
And push the boundaries.
of what's considered acceptable knowledge.
It's that spirit of rebellious exploration.
That's fueled chaos magic from the very beginning.
Not afraid to ask the big questions.
Even if those questions lead them outside the comfort zone of conventional thought. So as we wrap up this deep dive into chaos magic, what are the key takeaways you want our listeners to walk away with?
Well, first and foremost, chaos magic isn't some static, ancient tradition.
It's not frozen in time.
It's a vibrant, evolving system of thought and practice.
That embraces change.
And encourages personal exploration.
It changes us to question everything.
To experiment.
To discover what works for us as individuals.
It's like a toolbox.
Filled with a mind-boggling array of tools.
From ancient rituals to cutting-edge scientific concepts.
And you get to decide which tools to use and how to use them.
Chaos magic empowers the individual to become their own magician.
Their own explorer of consciousness.
It encourages us to see the world through a different lens.
To recognize the interconnectedness of all things.
And to embrace the inherent uncertainty of existence.
It's about understanding that chaos is not the opposite of order.
but the very source from which order emerges.
It's about finding the potential for magic.
In the everyday, in the mundane.
In the unexpected.
Now, that initial question Carol posed about AI.
About it being akin to summoning demons.
From grimoires.
Has really been swirling in my mind throughout this whole deep dive.
It's like he planted this seed of doubt.
This cautionary note.
About the dangers of relying too heavily on technology we don't fully understand.
What do you think? Are we unknowingly summoning digital demons through our increasing reliance on technology?
It's a big question. I don't know if I have an answer, but I do think there's a valid concern about the potential unintended consequences.
When we surrender too much of our agency,
legislative intelligence,
like we're handing over the reins of our lives to forces we can't fully control.
Without always understanding the long-term implications.
And that's where the principles of chaos magic can be valuable.
Even if you don't consider yourself a practicing magician.
It's about cultivating awareness.
Questioning assumptions. Taking responsibility.
For our choices and our actions.
Even in the digital realm.
It's about remembering that we always have a choice.
We can choose to be passive consumers of technology.
Allowing algorithms to dictate our thoughts and behaviors.
Or we can become active creators.
Shaping technology to serve our own goals and aspirations.
It's about recognizing that we are not powerless pawns in the game of life.
But rather the players.
The magicians.
The weavers of our own destinies.
So, listeners, if you're intrigued by what you've heard today and want to dive deeper into the world of chaos magic, I highly recommend checking out the work of Peter J. Carroll.
It might just change your perspective on everything.
From the nature of reality to the power of your own consciousness.
And who knows?
You might even discover that the greatest magic of all lies within yourself.
That's all for this deep dive into chaos magic.
We hope you enjoyed the journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep the magic alive.